Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center and our meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Cloudy this morning. It'll be partly sunny by the afternoon. Shower and a heavy thunderstorm possible. That could bring some damaging wind today, high 75. Partly cloudy tonight, low 49. Rain tomorrow, the high 67. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Fair skies, 56 at O'Hare, 50 along the lakefront. Next news, 7:30, breaking news as it happens. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and the PPP program was the topic of conversation at last evening's task force briefing. $40 billion reportedly has already been processed out nationally. $40 billion of the some $350 billion that are part of the forgivable loan program for businesses with fewer than 500 employees, according to President Trump. But there was some pushback about the prioritization of loan processing that Bank of America was doing initially, and Wells Fargo complaining about this or that, and different interfaces at different banks. But the bottom line is the thing launched on Friday. We're standing here on Tuesday, and as of yesterday, you had $40 billion that was moving out the door. So that's a decent start. But for more on the details of what small businesses should know and how they can access the PPP if they've got questions or concerns about it, pleased to be joined by Stephen Leahy, who's a Chicago attorney and host of the Trust Radio Network, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on our airwaves, 560 The Answer, as well as the IRS Radio Hour, Sundays at 5 p.m., also on our airwaves. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Nice to be with you today.
Well, you know,
we were supposed to be in Mexico last week. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, I know. I missed both of you guys. That's where we should have been.
I don't miss seeing you without a shirt on, though. I got to say. So I was.
Nor
over
I
that.
you, Dan.
Yes, I know. So, I mean, why don't you amplify some of the conversations you're having on your show? Otherwise, the questions that business people are asking about this P-cubed program and how they access these forgivable loans.
Well, as you mentioned, a lot has gone out the door, but it has been kind of priority about who gets the money. So far, the larger banks have kind of given the edge to their larger. Obviously, it can't be the largest because these are 500 employees or less, but they are prioritizing who gets the loans. So, for instance, if you don't have a commercial loan with some of these banks, they won't give you this loan. And so you go to your bank, you think, oh, you're just going to fill out this form and they're going to give me this loan. It doesn't generally work that way. Leave it to the government. They have a problem finding a way to give away free money, right?
Well, right.
They're having a problem with it.
So these community banks have to opt in terms of deciding to offer these loans.
Exactly, and there are independent loans out there. So I'm working with some lenders who are providing money to smaller, people, the independent contractors and the self-employed. That comes April 10th. They get to apply for this loan too. So up until now they haven't been able to apply, and sometimes they've made the independent contractors also available for unemployment. So you have to kind of weigh before whether you should go to unemployment or try to get one of these loans. But this is not going to be the answer for everybody. It's going to help, but it's not going to be the answer. It's not going to pay all your bills, but it's going to help.
Well, then what do you do? I mean, you can't pay all your bills, then what's your other option?
Well, that's a very good question. You know, the money, this money is used to pay employees, right? So so you're supposed to be keeping your employees and you pay them. So, but if you still have your rent, you still have your utilities, and you can use this money to pay some of that too. But there won't be enough to pay all of that because it's really broken down to an 8-week period. So you get to use the amount of money you get is 2.5 times your monthly payroll. And then you can use that money to pay your payroll and your rent and your utilities for 8 weeks. So there won't be enough to pay all of it. You know, you're supposed to stay in business. We're trying to stay in business. And obviously that's very difficult at this time.
Going back to February, the 8 weeks, going back to February 15th and projecting out to June 30th, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And the splits on employees versus overhead, rent, and utilities is 75-25 employees?
Well, you know, I think it's going to work out that way, but I don't think in the law itself there is no priority, but it's going to work out that way because you got to use it for most of the money's going to go to your payroll.
Right, but I just want to make sure because this has sort of been a handle that people are using, but this is not a requirement. This is not something where you're going to have to keep track and the government's going to check the distribution in order to forgive the loan.
Well, you know, I think it's more the banks that are putting up these restrictions on. They're more concerned about it. Actually, the loan application is pretty simple. You're supposed to do, you're supposed to attest to things, certify. Yes, this is what I'm going to use the money for. But what a lot of the banks are doing is they're requiring you to do what they usually do in banks, and that's go to an underwriter and provide all this information. And so while the loan doesn't require, the law doesn't require that you do this, the banks are requiring it. Just to cover themselves, because I think in the end they know down the road they don't know what the government's going to do, and so they're trying to protect themselves.
What about independent contractors?
Okay, that's coming up April 10th. If you're an independent contractor, and a lot of people don't know this, right? So if you're an independent contractor, so it's just you can qualify for one of these loans, but you can't you can't put your application until April 10th. So that's coming up.
And also talk to us about the pushing out the tax filing dates to July 15th and the implications of that. Just walk us through what the average taxpayer should know about postponing the filing date.
So I got a lot of calls in that people have scheduled their payment for April 15th because that's when it was due. If you have scheduled it, you got to go back and reschedule it till July 15th. So I wouldn't pay on April 15th. Try to keep as much cash as you can because we don't know what's going to happen. So schedule that payment forward to July 15th. So you go online to irs.gov and you can change that date. If you haven't scheduled it and you're going to pay it, then don't pay it until July 15th because that's the new deadline. And also filing is changed till July 15th.
Now I want to go back.
That's helped a lot.
Okay, I want to go back to one other loan that was expanded under the CARES Act, as I understand it, and that's the EIDL loans, these economic injury disaster loans. To talk to us about the expansion within the CARES Act for this program.
Well, again, this is another loan program, and that's why this is just the beginning. The PPP is just the beginning, and then you can apply for this economic disaster loan. So there's going to be steps here. Again, first the PPP, then the economic disaster. Then you're going to have to prove some of the PPP to get it forgiven. And you're going to have to jump through all the hoops of the SBA to get the disaster loans. They're trying to make it easier, but again, as I mentioned, a lot of the lenders are still going to require you to follow all these rules that are out there.
But the EIDL loan, the economic injury disaster loans, SBA low interest loans, that accessing the PPP loan does not preclude you from also accessing the EIDL loan.
Exactly, it does not.
Okay.
Now, if you have one before, because a lot of people went out and they applied for that first, so you have to reveal that on your application for the PPP. You have to reveal that you've asked for this loan, but you can still go ahead and get the economic disaster loan also after the fact. So again, these are steps that you need to take.
Well, and just importantly on the EIDL for people who are not familiar with it, so one of the aspects of that, if you're facing a cash crunch, because we're talking about so many businesses that, cash flow 30 days maybe,
Exactly.
is an emergency cash advance that you do not have to repay, even if the business is subsequently denied the loan.
You talk about the $10,000 that's
Yes,
out there for
exactly.
some. It's up to $10,000. And even my business, we've applied for that. I got a confirmation, but I haven't heard anything. That's 2 weeks ago. So we'll see how that works. I always say there's the way things are supposed to work, and then there's the way they actually do work, and we're finding out how it actually works now, and it's not what it's not what it's supposed to be. But again, that's what you go through this process. We see that there's so many people out there. There were so many people in line first. That doesn't mean it's out there. You said 40 billion, as you mentioned. There's 349 billion dollars out there. So there's still money out there. There's still time for you to get out there and put your loan out and put your application in.
And is this money also going out to thriving businesses, not just ones that are shut down?
It's anybody. Actually, if you're shut down, it makes it more difficult because the purpose of this loan is to keep your employees working and paying your employees. Because if you're not paying your employees, then they're going to go to unemployment, and then they're going to have to pay through unemployment. So this is one way to keep them working. If you're shut down, obviously you're not working. You still can pay your employees. Many companies now are still paying their employees. How long you can do that, obviously, is going to be limited to how much money you have.
You mentioned independent contractors. What about the solo artist who has an S corp or a sole proprietorship?
They're an S corp. They don't have to wait, right? Because that's not an independent contractor. Generally, an independent contractor is going to be someone like a realtor or somebody like that who gets their money from one employer, but they don't get a W-2 form. They get a 1099. So they're an independent contractor. And again, you have to kind of weigh. Does it make sense to go to get? I had a guy yesterday didn't make enough money to get a PPP loan, but still could go to get an unemployment because now they're allowing independent contractors to get unemployment, and that never happened before. You couldn't do that as an independent contractor.
And if you're an S corp and you have just yourself on the payroll and you use independent contractors, are you still eligible to get a loan for your portion of the payroll and any overhead, and then the independent contractors could subsequently do the same?
Well, actually, if you can get the loan for the independent contractors and then pay your independent contractors.
Okay.
So they don't have to go out and get it. So if I'm an S corporation, they're using my independent contractors as part of my payroll. So it doesn't have to be just the 940, 941 people. If I can show that I've been paying independent contractors, I can get the loan to pay them, and then I can pay them. So they don't have to go out and get their own loan.
Interesting. Great stuff. This is very helpful. Stephen Leahy is a Chicago attorney. He's host of the Trust Radio Network. That's Saturdays at 8 p.m. on AM 560, our airwaves right here. And IRS Radio Hour Sundays at 5 p.m. also on AM 560. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, let me do one thing. Just tell them,
yes.
Go to federalcoronaloans.com.
Okay.
Federalcoronaloans.com, and you can find all the information I've given you here is there, so you can brush up on it. If you have any questions, you can go there and reach me. Okay.
Federalcoronaloans.com. We'll tweet that out and post that as well. Federalcoronaloans.com. All right, Steve. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dan and Amy.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're in HR, you're probably wearing a lot of hats. Recruiter, team builder, trainer, mediator, policymaker, and of course, paper pusher. But not anymore. Bamboo HR is the #1 HR software for small and medium businesses. It manages all your employee data easily and automates countless tasks, so you can focus on people, not paperwork. Bamboo HR frees you from spreadsheets, so you can do your real job, creating a great place to work. If the data shuffle and paperwork mountain have you ready to hang up all your hats, you're ready for Bamboo. If you handle HR records and paperwork, Bamboo HR is a dream. Let us free up your time and put your days of pushing paperwork behind you so you can focus on the people and making your company a great place to work for everyone. Try PC Magazine's top pick for HR software free